Hey, folks, welcome back to Unfinished Business. This week we have a special guest, but before that, hi, I'm Jeff Galashaw, and with me, as always, is my co host, Andre Joseph.
My dream has always been to go to a Playboy Mansion.
Uh, as I said, we have a guest this week. That is why I'm talking so fast, because can't believe we're interviewing this person. But first, let me get to the intro. We are honored to be able to interview and talk to a consummate actor's actor who has worked from the 1970s to today in various movies and television projects, who got his start on the stage. There is no way you haven't seen him in something, from his films that stand the test of time to television. He usually plays a hard ass you love or love to hate. Uh, in rare, usually the face of authority. It is a great pleasure for us to have the legendary John Ashton with us today. Thank you for on the show.
That's a pleasure, Jeffrey. Nice to be here.
Uh, it, I still can't believe it.
Yeah.
I'm sitting outside on my porch, so I'm kind of trying to relax a little bit. So,
Hey, well, try not to like upset you in any way.
we, we've had so much rain where I live in the last week. It's ridiculous. So the sun is out, and I want to get some sunshine. So,
Don't blame me.
Yeah, thank God you're not here with this wildfire in New York. It's just insane.
we had it here in Colorado. So we had it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I believe it.
It came down from British Columbia. This one you're getting from Quebec, I guess, or something.
Yes, Quebec.
Yeah, I know. I tried to watch a Yankee game yesterday, and because I'm a Yankee fan.
Yeah, same here.
I grew up in Connecticut, so I'm a Yankee fan, and they canceled the game because there's too much smoke.
Mm-hmm.
That's unbelievable.
It really is. So, John, again, thank you for coming on. This is such a huge honor for us. We've grown up with so many of your movies, besides not just Beverly Hills Cop, but Midnight Run and, the John Hughes movies you were in. So, like we ask all of our guests, what got you started in acting?
Well, I was pretty much a juvenile delinquent when I was a kid, so I grew up in a fairly rough neighborhood, and I was in trouble all the time, and I was kind of a juvenile delinquent. And, I played all the sports. I played baseball, football, hockey. I did all that, and when I wasn't doing that, I was robbing cars and breaking into hardware stores and stuff. So I had a probation officer when I was 14. So anyway, one day I'm walking down the hallway in my high school, and the director came up to me and said, "Would you like to be in a play?" And I went, "Sure." So it was Oklahoma, and I played Jed Fry, and I won Best Actor, and I was it was great. It was a fun thing to do, and then right after that, I got into a production at the Hartford Stage Company, in their premiere production. That was in 1964 of Othello, and I had two lines and carried a torch. But I was sitting in a rehearsal one morning, about 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm watching the actors rehearse and stuff. I was sitting in the audience, and I just thought to myself, I could be out getting in trouble. Instead, I'm in here and I'm learning something and I'm doing something I really enjoy. And then I gave the advice to the undergraduate speech in high school when I graduated, which is a funny speech. You give them all bad advice and stuff. And that was in the middle of the Vietnam War in 1966. And I looked out and I saw everybody laughing, and I thought, man, this is really something. I can take people away from all the bullshit that's going on in the world and take them to a special place for a couple of hours so they can escape and enjoy themselves. And I said, this is what I want to do. So I went to college and got my degree in theater, and I did Cape Cod, summer stock, and went over to Europe and did theater in Germany and Scotland and England, and then I came back and did theater in Hollywood, and then I started getting into TV, and one thing led to another, and uh, I was fortunate to do some good productions and work with some really good people, and 1981. Excuse me. I did a production of True West with Ed Harris in L.A., and we both won Drama Critics Awards for it because, basically it's a two-character play, and they couldn't give it to one or the other, so they gave it to both of us. And that's how I got Beverly Hills Cop, actually. A casting director from New York happened to see the play and called me in. This was a couple of years later. And she said, John, there's nothing in this movie for you, but I saw your production of True West and I thought you were terrific and I just wanted to meet you. And I said, okay, great. Thank you. And that was the end of it. And then a few weeks later, I got called in to audition, and I auditioned, and it went, the movie actually went from, Mickey Rourke was going to do it originally. It was a very serious movie about avenging the death of his buddy. And, the script was basically the same, but it was a heavy script. And then, so I read when he was going to do it, and then Stallone was going to do it. And I went in again and read, and then Stallone was out because he was going to make it, Rambo blows up Beverly Hills, and anyway, they decided to get Eddie, and they made a comedy out of it. And then by total chance, in the final auditions, when they were pairing people up, they just happened to put Judge and I together. I mean, they were going, you, and they just put it, and it was total by accident that Judge and I got paired up together. And he came running over to me and he said, hey man, what'd you think of the script? And I said, I don't know, I haven't read it. And he goes, what? You haven't read the script? I had only read one scene. Every time I auditioned, they gave me the same scene where I punch Eddie in the stomach and, tell him I don't want a loudmouth guy from out of town and all that. Yeah. That was that's the only thing I knew about the whole movie. So Judge started hurriedly trying to give me the storyline of the film, and I said, oh, well, forget about it. Don't worry, we'll just wing it. And he said, what? They said, we'll just wing it. So we got into the audition. Of course, there's 30 people in there, all the producers and the writers and the directors and everybody are in there. And there was another actor reading for the captain. It wasn't Ronnie Cox. It was another actor. And so I was just ad-libbing everything. And finally I looked at Judge and I said, could you wait over there for a minute? Because I want to talk to the captain alone. And Judge kind of looked at me and went, okay. And he backed off. And I looked at the captain and I said, can I get a new partner? Because this guy's a real fucking pain in the ass. So the whole room started laughing, and that's how I got the job.
Nice.
And Marty Brest was terrific. I mean, originally Taggart and Rosewood weren't very big parts in the film, but Marty really loved the chemistry that Judge and I had, and he kept letting us ad-lib, and we kept building the characters, and they became co-stars of the movie, I mean, because there were a lot of scenes like... there was a scene where it says Taggart and Rosewood wait in the car. That's all it said in the script. And so we sat there looking up at the hotel room where Eddie was staying and drinking coffee, and that was it. And then Marty said, okay, we got that. Now you guys just fool around and do something. So Judge happened to be reading a magazine in between takes. So they rolled the camera, and Judge picked up the magazine and said, wow, did you know by the time you're 50 years old, there's 12 pounds of undigested meat in your system? And I said, why are you telling me that? What makes you think I have any interest? Well, you eat a lot of meat, That was all ad-lib shit, So, well, it was fun. I mean, we had a blast. We had a blast doing it. Sorry, I was babbling here for a while, so go ahead.
My question, on Some Kind of Wonderful, that was also a film that went through like a whole change before filming. Were you passed already when Marcia Coolidge was in charge of the project?
No, I didn't get involved until Howard Deutsch was directing it. And John Hughes was still producing it, but Howie Deutsch was directing it when I got involved with Eric Stoltz. So, and Beverly Hills Cop had come out, so they just basically offered me the role. But, and the interesting thing about that film, I also did She's Having a Baby with Kevin Bacon at the same time.
Oh,
and John Hughes was producing and directing that in Chicago, and we were shooting Some Kind of Wonderful in L.A. So I was flying back and forth doing one and the other, and then we had all this rain and stuff in Chicago, and we got behind in the shooting schedule, and Howie was screaming for me to get. I needed him back in L.A. and I just went to John and I said, "Well, you're the producer of both of the films, so you tell me where to go." So he said, "You stay here till you're finished," and I said, "Okay." So anyway, and we actually, while we were shooting Beverly Hills Cop 2, they had a screening of Some Kind of Wonderful, and you know, a lot of times they'll screen it in audiences to get their reaction before it's released and stuff. And there was the bedroom scene where I'm asking him for his money and, you know, what happened to all the money and all that stuff. And in the original film, I had mentioned, or Eric had, it was $10,000 he spent for these earrings. And when the audience saw that, they said, "There's no way this working class family would spend $10,000 on earrings." So we had to reshoot that scene while I was shooting Cop 2, and they were both on the same lot. So I had dressing rooms, 2 dressing rooms on one day, because one day I was running back and forth from each soundstage, reshooting the scene in Some Kind of Wonderful and shooting Beverly Hills Cop 2, and it was a pretty hectic day. But anyway, so that's what the scene in the bedroom. I finally just say, "Where's the fucking money, Keith?" You know, we don't mention an amount. You know, so we had to reshoot that. So anyway, it was all done.
Wow. Yeah, that's a wonderful scene too.
Yeah, I had fun doing it. Yeah, it was a good scene. Eric was great doing it.
Did I guess working with John Hughes on those 2 projects, is that what led to your cameo in Curly Sue also?
Yes. John likes to do that. You know, he'll take you and then put you in a cam, like he did it to Kevin Bacon in Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, when he had the, you know, he starred in She's Having a Baby, but then he beats with the Steve Martin.
I think so, Steve Martin.
Out of the cab in New York. You know, so John liked to do that kind of stuff. And there was a scene in She's Having a Baby that this was my contribution. John and I were out having dinner one night, and the next day he was going to shoot the scene where Kevin he goes to that dance joint and all that stuff and meets that young girl and all that stuff. And then he was going to shoot the scene where Kevin goes up to the window and he's kind of feeling guilty and all that stuff, looking through the window and stuff of his house. And I said, "John, why don't you make it Christmas time?" And when he looks in the window and he sees the Christmas tree and he's not there, and John goes, "That's it. I'm doing it that way." That was my contribution to that.
Nice. Yeah, you know, also with Curly Sue, that was John's last directorial effort, which kind of raises the questions for me. Did you ever get the sense that he was like done with directing after that? Because I feel like you and John Candy could have done something with him together, which would have been pretty amazing.
Yeah, I would love to have done that. Yeah, I actually met John one time in John Hughes' office, actually. John and I was going in to talk to John, and Candy was coming out, and we briefly met, and that was it. But I would have loved to work with Candy. He was great.
Yeah. Yeah. So
John died too early, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to jump back to Beverly Hills Cop for a second. So now, when you did the second movie, obviously Martin Brest didn't come back. Tony Scott wound up directing it. How are their styles different in terms of the approach to the Beverly Hills Cop universe?
Well, you know, Judge and I, we all had our characters pretty well down. So Tony really didn't have to direct us very much, you know, because we already had our characters down. But Tony likes the visuals, you know, the blow ups and the stuff, and Marty's more of a character driven director. You know, he concentrates on the characters and the relationships and stuff, and Tony concentrates on the big blow ups and the action and all that stuff. So it was a little different, but Tony was great too. I mean, I had a great time with Tony. He had more energy than anybody I ever seen. He was unbelievable. So unfortunately, we lost him too.
Yeah.
Which is still to me to this day, I can't figure it out. But anyway, it was too bad. Anyway, it was different, but still good, you know.
What was your first impression, like going back to Cop 1, your first impression of working with Eddie Murphy the first time you met him?
You know, it's Eddie and I just kind of hit it off right away. I mean, it was just, you know, it was like we had known each other forever. It was just, we got together and said, okay, let's do it, man. And, you know, we did it, you know, and Eddie likes to ad lib, and we'd ad lib off of him. And you know, I mean, we had that scene where, you know, we're in the office and he's got his arm around you. These guys are super cops. That was all ad lib shit, you know, and we were having a hard time not cracking up during that, you know. But no, Eddie and I we just hit it off right away, and it was weird because in Cop 4 that we just finished, you know, we hadn't seen each other in quite a few years. And the first day we got on the set, I was like, "Hey man, how are you? Let's go to work." You know, it was just like we never left. You know, it was like weird. You know, and they've been waiting 30 years to do this. You know, the fourth one. So, or what? 93, 03. Yeah, pretty close to 30 years. It's the third one. So, which I didn't do, which you know.
Yeah, speaking of the third one, so I understand just from reading some of your other interviews, you couldn't do it because you were doing Little Big League at that time. So I guess my question is, because I have the original draft that Steven D'Souza wrote, and it had Taggart as the head of the amusement park. Like he was going to be the security, and he didn't know about the conspiracy that was going on behind his back. So I don't know, like, if you remember any of the previous scripts that were presented to you before you decided you couldn't do it.
Well, they wanted me to do it, and we were in negotiations to do it. And they actually sent me the script I had just finished. I think I was working in Czechoslovakia or someplace, and I went on vacation to Hawaii when I got home. And they sent me the script while I was in Hawaii, and I read it, and I called John Landis, and I just said, "John, what? This script's terrible," you know. And I said, you got us all split up, you know. I mean, I said, Eddie, in the second one, Eddie goes, "Hey man, we're the Three Musketeers," you know what I mean? And he says that, and now you got Judge over here and me over there and Eddie over there. I mean, it'll change. So every rewrite I got, it never changed. And then they kept pushing the shooting schedule back. And finally, you know, John just said, "Look, I don't know when we're going to start. So if something comes up, you know, go ahead and do it." So I took Little Big League. And then I took Little Big League, and he called me. He goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm going to work, man." And then while I was shooting Little Big League, they still wanted me to do Cop 3, and they trying to find out my stop date on Little Big League so I could shoot, you know, but it never worked out. So it happened.
Yeah, I don't blame you, because like the three of you guys just, again, you had that Three Musketeers kind of chemistry. And, you know, even the scripts that they've talked about over the years where it just seemed to be focused more on Eddie and not the two of you guys. It's like, it doesn't work without the three of you there. So yeah.
Exactly. Well, you know, Little Big League was a fun movie to do, and I'm glad I did it, you know, and I'm glad glad I didn't do 3 to tell you the truth.
Yeah, we're missing out on much.
But 4 is going to be great. I'm just give you a little hint. We got a really good cast. Everybody's back. It's well, you know that we're all back, and I can't give too much of it away, but Kevin Bacon's now in it, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and we got a really good guest cast, and all of us are back. It's going to be cool. It's really going to be cool. The script is cool, so
yeah. I guess my one question for that, and again, it's not a spoiler question, but is it gonna feel more like the original, or is it gonna be more action packed like 2?
Mark, the director, I met with him way before we started shooting. I flew into LA and had a meeting with him, and the first thing he said to me, I want to bring this back to the 80s. And I said, right off the bat, I went, that's what I wanted to hear. That's what I wanted to hear. So, yeah, so he tried to make it more like the first one, with action and stuff like that, but relationships and things like that. So it's going to be cool. It's going to I'm really happy I did it, and I think the audience is going to dig it. So
yeah, I hope so, because we've been waiting a long time.
No kidding, 30 years, man.
Yeah.
It was weird that somebody said that on the set, and I went, man, it feels like yesterday, man. It doesn't. And that's the way it was when I got on the set with everybody. It was like we hadn't left. It was great.
Yeah, because 1 and 2 is on every day, and it's like it never feels like it ever aged.
Yeah, I know it. It's been on every day now too. So, and I don't know when 4 is coming out, but I hope it comes out this year sometime. But
same here.
Not my job. People keep asking me, when's it coming out? Not my job. My job's done. The big guys in the offices have to decide that, And it was great. And that was another thing on 3. Jerry Bruckheimer was involved, and I loved Jerry, and Jerry and I got along great, with the first 2, and we went to his anniversary party a couple of years ago. We had a big party in Hollywood, and we went, and that's like we saw each other, but. When I found out Jerry was producing the 4th one, I said, I'm in, man, and I read the script. I said, I'm in. So, and because I know Jerry ain't going to screw it up. Jerry's great.
I don't blame you. Mm-hmm. You were in the Tommyknockers, the miniseries, which presented you, or at least to me, and 2 career firsts. First, you were kind of a romantic lead. And also, it was my first time ever seeing you die. Spoiler alert. Do you wish that maybe in your career, maybe you had more romantic leads rather than playing the married man, in this marriage, father, kids?
Well, yeah, I never got the chance. I never get the girl, I never get the girl, I'm even when I did the TV series Hardball, when I did it, we did 18 episodes of that with me and Richard, and Richard always got the girl, and I was always kicking doors and beating up bad guys. That's just the way it is, I guess.
Muscle on Hardball, I guess, more, and he was the lover with the long hair. And
yeah,
I remember that. I loved it when I was a kid. And I guess my next question actually goes there. Like, was that the only real TV series lead that you've ever been offered, or the only one that you really wanted to do?
To be honest with you, I turned it down about 10 times. I had just come back from Paris doing a movie with Gerard Depardieu in Paris. And I was in Paris for 3 months, and I got back, and I went on vacation up into Carmel, Monterey Bay, and I'm a golfer, so I was playing Pebble Beach and stuff, and I got a call while I was up there, that they wanted me to do it. And I didn't want to do a TV series. My film career was going great. I went from Midnight Run, and then from Midnight Run, I went to Paris with Depardieu to shoot that. And, so my film career was going well, and I didn't want to, get caught up in television, And I turned it down 10 times, and they kept offering me more money. And then by the time I finally went, you know, I'll put my kid through college, and I said, so it was hard for me to not turn it down. And actually, Johnny Russo played one of the mob guys in the pilot, and he came up to me the first day, and I knew Johnny, and he came up to me and he said, "Yeah, I just saw De Niro in New York, and I told him you were doing a series." He goes, "What's he doing a series for?" You know. And then I told him why, and he went, "Okay, I understand." And anyway, Bobby and I, De Niro and I, got along great. I love Bobby; he was great. So anyway, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it was a pretty good series, I thought. But they put us on Friday night against Dallas. You know, Dallas was the number one show. And we didn't have a prayer. I mean, that's what television's all about, the numbers. You know, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, as long as it's getting good numbers, you know? So that's the unfortunate thing about television. You know, theater is the only actor's medium there is, you know? I mean, films are pretty much a director's medium. Television is pretty much a producer's medium. They got to sell advertising. It's all about, advertising and all that stuff. Stage is the only one that the actors are in control. Once that curtain opens, man, it's your deal. Nobody can, cut. Nobody, it's your deal. So that's the only actor's medium there is, as far as I'm concerned. So,
do you ever think about trying to maybe go back into theater just like one more time, do another production?
yeah, if the right one came along, I would. I just, I've been so busy doing other things that I just, because that takes time, I mean, you got to devote a year of your life to a play, and, I haven't had the time to really put aside to do it. So, but I'm looking at the directing some stuff now, and I love doing independent films, the little independent films. I did 2 of them last year before I did Cop 4. I did The Lonesome Soldier in New Mexico, and I played the grandfather. I was a Vietnam vet of an Iraqi veteran, and it was my grandson, and he goes through PTSD, and I'm trying to help him out. So it's a cool little movie. And then I did another film in Chicago right after that with the same director that directed me in Once Upon a River, and which I love doing. I played a hermit on the river that takes a runaway girl in, and I just love doing those little independent. It's like doing a play, It's like the crews are small, everybody's intimate. It's nice, And then I go to Cop 4, and there's 9 million trucks around. Yeah, it's like so yeah. So I kind of doing those independent films is. I feel like I'm doing theater, So it's fun.
That's awesome. So I actually want to go back to Midnight Run because that's also one of our favorites, and your part as Marvin. Yeah, like your back and forth with De Niro is just it's magical. Just every time you guys are like competing with each other over Charles Grodin is just hilarious. Is it true your character was originally supposed to die at the end?
Were I supposed to die halfway through the movie?
It's just
and as we were filming it, Marty, who I love, Marty Brest, I love working with Marty. He just said, "We can't kill Dorfler. The audience will hate us if we kill Dorfler." So they had to rewrite the whole ending where I screw up everything at the airport. So I'm in that and all that stuff. But originally, I get killed in when I take the picture of Grodin in the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I show it to the mob guys in the parking lot there, and I say, I want 2 million and blah blah blah, and in the original script they just shoot me, and they go look at the picture and they see the towels and they know where Grodin is and blah blah blah. Well, now I wasn't going to die, so we got to that scene, and Marty came up to me. He says, "Oh man, wait a minute, this is where you're supposed to get killed." He said, "What are we going to do?" And I said, "Just have him knock me out." And he went, "Oh, great. Good idea." So that's what he does. He just knocks me out. So, yeah, but I love doing Midnight Run. We were on the road 6 months on that film, and because we actually started shooting in New York and worked our way across the country, and in the audition process, it was funny because Joey Pants was doing a play in Hollywood, and I went to see the play. And at intermission, an actor friend of mine, Alan Vint, who's no longer with us, he was a great mentor. I mean, he came up to me and he said, "So you're going to do Midnight Run, right?" And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Well, you're going to do Midnight Run. I mean, you're perfect for it." And I said, I haven't even heard about it, my Cracker Jack agents. So I called him and I go, "Hey man, what's the deal with Midnight Run?" "Oh yeah, you should probably read for that." And I said, "Wait a minute, Marty Brest is directing it?" So I called Marty and I said, "Marty, what's the deal with Midnight Run?" And he goes, "Oh man, you'd be great in it." And I'm waiting for him to offer a thing to me, He said, "But you got to audition." And I go, "What the hell do I have to audition for, Marty?" So he goes, "It's not me, it's Bobby. Bobby wants to audition everybody," which is very smart on his part because he wants to choose who he works with. He doesn't want somebody else choosing it. So I said, "That's cool, man. I'd love to read with De Niro." So I get to the audition, and there's 30 guys in the hallway reading for Dorfler, and they're all, I mean, like, "Oh my God, I got to read De Niro. Oh my God." And they're all freaking out. And I'm going, "Man, I can't wait. I can't wait." And I said, "Nobody's taking this fucking role from me, man." So I go into the audition, and Bobby's there, and Marty, and George Gallo, the writer, and a couple people. And so, and I know Marty did this on purpose. He said, "Hey, will you guys wait a minute? I got to go do something." And he left Bobby and I alone. And I know he did that on purpose just so we could talk a bit, And anyway, he comes back. He goes, "Okay, let's read the scene." So we start reading the scene, and I go, "Give me the keys." And so he goes to hand them to me, and Bobby picks up these matches, and he goes to hand me the matches. So I go to take them, and he throws them on the ground, and he stares at me. And I looked at him. I go, "Fuck you." And he goes, "Fuck you too." And I pick him up. I ain't picking those fucking things up. Fuck you. So I found out later, George Gallo told me as soon as I walked out, Bobby said, "I want him," because somebody to stand up to him,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure every other actor picked those matches up and handed it to him. And I looked like, "Fuck you." He wanted somebody to jostle with. So that's, and Alan Vint also told me, and really Dorfler was written as a really ugly character. He really was an ugly character as written. But Alan Vint, the actor I told you about, years before, the best advice I ever got, I accepted a role on a PBS show, and I got the script. Before reading the script, I accepted it. And then I got the script and I read it and I went, "Oh my God, I have no idea how to play this guy," and I was freaking out. And I called Alan, and Alan and I met, and he read the script. He goes, "So what's your problem?" I said, "Well, Alan, he's the bad guy, and I don't know how to." And he goes, "Wait a minute, stop. What?" I said, "Well, he's the bad guy, and he said, "Wait a minute, what'd you say?" I said, "Well, he's the bad." He said, "There's no such thing as a bad guy." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Do you know any kid that's when he's little, he says, 'I want to grow up to be a bad guy'? You don't grow, that's not your purpose to be a bad guy. You end up being the bad guy. But that's not what you want to be. You end up being that way. So don't ever play a bad guy as a bad guy. Just do your job." So that's the way I approached Dorfler. I approached him with, "I'm not the bad guy. Jack, you're in my fucking way. You're in my way. I'm trying to do my job. You're in my way." And right in a movie, we say, "Come on." Bobby says, "Come on, Marvin, we're friends. We're friends, Marvin." So they are friends. So I never played him as an ugly bad guy, I play him like, "You're in my fucking way. I'm trying to do my job," It's like, and that's the best advice that I've always remembered that Alan Vint telling me that, and I that's the way I approach every character. I just play every character like this is my job. I'm trying to do my job. So I might screw up, but I'm not trying to,
And I heard at one point there was going to be a sequel, and it was written, it was discussed, and what happened with that? Because Dorfler needs his cigarettes. We need to know if he ever gets his cigarettes at some point.
Well, there was talking. There was actually a script that I read it, and then it wasn't very good. I mean, Dorfler was like a cameo. I'd like one little scene flying a plane or something. It was really dumb. And but actually, George Gallo didn't write it because George Gallo's a hell of a writer. But when that first came up, George had the opening right like that. When somebody said they were talking about doing a sequel, George had the opening like that, and I said, "What?" And he goes, "We're in the cafe because we're in the coffee shop, okay? Because that's De Niro's character always wants to open a coffee shop." So he said it opens in the coffee shop, and Dorfler's a cook at the coffee shop. And all of a sudden, Bobby gets a phone call, and he's off on a thing, and Dorfler throws his towel down, and he starts chasing after him, and that was the opening. I thought that was a great opening, man. Yeah. So, but that's not what was in that script. But anyway. But I'd love to do a sequel. We're getting kind of old now, but
Yeah, no, I mean, De Niro's getting up there, but still would be amazing to see guys aged out, just like these rough bounty hunters in their last job.
Chasing after them in wheelchairs now, right?
Yeah.
Night Run wasn't your first time working with Charles Grodin. You were in Last Resort together with.
How do you know that? I never put that in my resume. Don't talk about that. What?
But what was that experience? Because that movie is just so, even watching it today seems just so, I don't know, all over the place with its humor. And it has so many, like, before, they were famous comedy stars like John Lovitz, who you worked with again in Trapped in Paradise, Phil Hartman, Mario Van Peebles, Gary Graham. What was just the whole atmosphere of filming that movie?
It was terrible. We actually shot it in Catalina Island. Julie Corman was the producer, and I think she was trying to prove to her husband Roger she could make a movie cheaper than him, whatever. But we were staying in literally a Boy Scout camp in Catalina Island. We were living in tents. I mean, it was miserable. But and we were stuck, and we sit in the island and look back in the lights of L.A. and go, man, it's like, I mean, we were stuck on this island. It was, but Phil Hartman and John Lovitz were entertaining us all the time, with their humor. So we'd sit around at the campfire at night, and they'd be telling all these jokes and stuff. And Grodin, who wasn't staying on the island, they were boating them in every day. He was hearing their stories, and he got a hold of what's his name for Saturday Night Live?
Lorne Michaels?
Yeah. Grodin got a hold of Lorne Michaels and said, "You got to see these guys. You got to," and Grodin got them the job on Saturday Night. So Lorne Michaels said, "Okay." So John and Phil flew to New York and met with Lorne Michaels and got the job and came back to the island and finished the film and said, "Yeah, we're going to be on Saturday Night Live." So Grodin got him that gig on Saturday Night Live, just from them telling stories on the island while we were sitting around. Like I work with Lovitz again on Trapped in Paradise, and we were sitting in a Jeep one night, and it was cold. It was like 20, 30 below in Canada. It was miserable. And so we're sitting there, and we're in between takes, and Dana and Lovitz and Nick Cage were in the back seat, and I was in the front seat of the Jeep. And so we're just sitting there waiting while they're doing the lighting and stuff. And so Lovitz finally goes, "Well, John, how is it working with me again?" So I said, "Well, John, since I worked with you last time, I've worked with Eddie Murphy. I've worked with Robert De Niro. I've worked with Gerard Depardieu." I said, "I think my career's going downhill." Anyway, no, he was a lot of fun. We got along great. We were just kidding each other.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of your most, I think, emotionally charged roles was probably the TV movie I Know My First Name is Steven. And I remember that very vividly because I remember watching that years and years ago and like
Yeah.
really like kind of tearing at the heartstrings. And for you to play the Stainer father, and seeing the character's son come back as like a teenager and still looking at him as a small child after all those years of him being captured and essentially groomed. Did you consult with the family in order to get into that role? Like, how challenging was that for you?
Well, interestingly enough, I was offered to play the kidnapper.
Mm.
They offered me that role, and I read the script and I went, no, I am not playing that role. And I mean, they couldn't get an actor to do it. Finally, Arliss Howard did it. And Arliss and I are good friends. We were in a theater group together. Uh, Arliss and Ed Harris and a bunch of us had a theater group, the Met Theater in LA. Anyway, but they offered me to play the kidnapper, and I said no. I said I'll play the father, and they said okay, great, okay, you can play the father. So I did, and I met the real Steven, came onto the set one day, and unfortunately, he was actually in one of the scenes, the homecoming scene. He plays one of the cops in the crowd, and then unfortunately, 3 or 4 weeks later, he got killed on his motorcycle delivering a pizza. So, but he was a good kid, and it was a tough film to do. I mean, it was emotionally tough to do, but yeah, it was pretty challenging, but it came out good, I thought.
And one of I guess I don't want to say it's like your last big role because you have plenty of work that you've done, but probably one of your high profile parts in the last couple of years was in Gone Baby Gone, where you were Ed Harris's partner. What was it like working with him again on that film and working with Ben Affleck as a director?
Well, it was interesting, I mean, I read the book, Gone Baby Gone, and the writer's a terrific writer, Dennis Lehane. He's written a lot of good stuff. And I was the first one cast in that because Ben insisted on me being in it. And because he was a big fan. He worked with Marty Brest on Jiggly. And Marty actually told me that that Ben came up to him one day on the set and said, I want to be your next John Ashton. Because I did 2 movies with Marty, and Marty never cast the same people twice, but I did it. I was the only one that's ever been cast twice. And so he was basically saying, I want to do another movie with you, So anyway, I was cast right away. And then I found out that Eddie was going to be my partner. I said, that's perfect, because Eddie and I did True West together and a couple other things together. And the first thing we ever did together was Borderline with Charles Bronson.
Yeah.
1980. Eddie and I were in that. He played the runner and the coyote guy, and that was interesting, that film. But anyway, it was great working with Eddie again, and Eddie and I are good friends to this day. So, but it was a good show. It was good. Ben was it was his first directing job, and he was a little nervous and stuff, but he did a good job, and it came out good. He's done some The Town and a couple other things after that, so.
Yeah, Air was really good. You got to use the Beverly Hills Cop theme.
Somebody told me about that the other day. I haven't seen it yet, so I got to see it.
Yeah, highly recommend it. We just reviewed it recently.
Yeah, these guys at my club, my golf club, a couple of them said, you got to see it, man. This is great. So I'll see it eventually.
Yeah.
Since you played a lot of authority types, you've always handled guns in movies, but it's been cool that your characters always seem to use shotguns. Just by happenstance? Is that a choice?
No, it's just, I mean, when I was a struggling actor in LA, I worked at a pool hall, bartending in a pool hall in South Central LA, which is they were a pretty tough neighborhood. I got my degree in theater at USC. I originally went to a small college in Ohio, and I was playing football there, and I got an offer to do summer stock in Cape Cod, and I was married. I was 20 years old. I was married and had a baby, 4-month-old baby, and I'm doing summer stock in Cape Cod, and I'm making $25 a week in room and board. And I'm sitting in Cape Cod one day, and I'm thinking, I could be the greatest actor in the world, but who the hell's going to know it in Defiance, Ohio, man? So I applied to USC. Excuse me. I applied to USC and got accepted, but I was broke, and so I got a hold of the school, and I said I would love to come, but I don't have any money. So can I come the next year? So I dropped out of school for a year, and I worked on a freight docks in Chicago, loading freight cars and trailer trucks and stuff, and saved the money to get to LA. And I got to LA with a U-Haul trailer, a 1.5-year old baby, and I didn't know anybody. And so, but down near USC, there was right near the Coliseum there, and I had an apartment there, and then I worked at the pool hall there, and it happened to be where all the cops hung out. And I was only about 23 or so at the time, 24. And I was doing theater in a little theater group up in LA or up in Hollywood. And so I'd work in a bar in the daytime. This was after I graduated. And then I'd go to the theater at night and do my play, and then go back and close the bar at night, and then get up in the morning. It was like, and anyway, all the South Central LA detectives used to hang out at the bar. So I got to know all these cops. So I was picking up all their little intricacies and stuff. And so, and I'll never forget the first TV job I got, I turned down. And I had just, I did a play in Hollywood called A Flea in Her Ear, which is a Feydeau French farce. And I won Best Supporting Actor that year. And I got a call like a week later. They wanted me to do a police story. So I said, oh, great. So they said, we got auditions. So I go in, and it was 2 lines to play an ambulance attendant. And I said, man, I just won a drama critics. You want me to do, I'm not doing 2 lines. So I think they offered me like $125 a day or something. It was a day's work, something like that. So I go back to the bar, and my agent calls and he says, you got the job, and it's 120. I said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. So I was making $1.25 an hour at the bar, making $10 a day, So when these cops found out I turned down $125 a day, they go, are you crazy? Taking 2 months to earn that much money. I said, I don't care. I'm not doing it. But I ended up doing it, and I regret it to this day, because that's all I got offered after that were these 2-line roles. I said, man, I regret the day, because Hollywood loves to do that, man. They pinhole you right in that place. So, but I finally broke out of it, thank God.
Yeah. So, as we start to kind of wrap up a little bit, another question I have for you, as an actor, what do you tend to look for in a script and a director when you're approached with a project?
Well, I look at the character. I look at relationships. I mean, I love, I'm a story-driven, character-driven guy. I like a good story and good characters and good relationships, and I look at that, and that's why I love Marty. I mean, Marty, he loves, the relationships of characters in the movies. I mean, in Beverly Hills Cop 1, I mean, we had a lot of action and stuff, but we also had connections with each other. We connected with each other. And so that's what I look for. I look for a good story, a good character relationships. And, I just don't like all the blow ups and no characters, it's just, I guess that comes from my theater background, because, theater's all about character and story, so.
That's the funny thing about why I actually do like Cop 2 a lot, because you have a lot of action and explosions more so than the first film, but again, the chemistry between the three of you guys, like the stuff about, your wife leaving you and, like going to the strip club and everybody thinks you're Gerald Ford, like that stuff actually gives more levity and more reason to connect to you guys. And if it was just like, well, what's Stallone do with Cobra, or it's just nothing but action and he looks cool, but you can't connect to him because he's not, an underdog, right? So that's one of the things I think that probably makes Taggart so enduring as a character.
Yeah, well, I mean, Marty always, and that audition scene I told you about, when I said, "Can I have a word with the captain? Can I get a new partner? This guy's a real pain in the ass and stuff." And they all laughed. Well, they actually wrote that in the film, and in Cop One, and we were getting ready to shoot that scene, and Marty came over to me and he said, "Do you want to shoot this scene?" And I said, "Why?" And he goes, "I love your relationship with Judge. The fact that you're a harried husband, and you put up with him and all that stuff." And he said, "I'm afraid you're going to look like a prick if we shoot this scene, asking for a new partner." He said, "I like the fact that you just put up with him." And I said, "Okay, let's not shoot it." So we never shot it. So
truthful. Oh, with you. Most directors would have just shot it and been like, "Okay, we'll see how it works." So,
and actually,
well, and the gun thing, I'm pretty good with guns, and the prop guys trust me, but I mean, it's a scary thing to be around them, but look what happened with Rust and all that stuff. And, I mean, you got to be careful. I mean, they're not toys. I mean,
yeah.
and like I said, being a bartender in a cop bar, where the cops hung out, I learned a lot about that stuff. And so the prop guys always know that I know what I'm doing. And I always tell them, don't give me the gun until they're rolling the camera, not when they say they're ready, because they do that all the time. They'll say, "Okay, we're ready." And then somebody will go, "Well, I got to tweak a light and stuff." And now everybody's standing around with loaded guns. And that's that. And a lot of guys don't know what they're doing with them, and so I tell the prop guy, "Give it to me when they're rolling, give it to me on safety. I'll take the safety off. And as soon as they yell cut, I'm handing it right back to you." So they always are right there for me, and they know that I know what I'm doing. So, but, I mean, there was an actor, Charles, what was his name? John Eric Hexum, years ago, that a very handsome guy and stuff. And he had a loaded gun, and he shouldn't have. I don't know why he had one. He wasn't filming, but he was hanging around and he was trying to impress these girls or something. And he put the gun to his head and killed himself.
Yeah, I remember that.
They're not toys, man. They'll hurt you. So anyway, I don't know how we got on that.
Yeah, so this might be kind of an out of the limb type of question, and feel free to answer it however way you want. But I mean, we talked a lot about Martin Brest and just the amazing work that he's done as a filmmaker, and it's been a very long time since he's done anything. Is he just fully retired? Does he have any inkling of wanting to get back into directing?
I talked to Marty a lot, actually. Actually, when we were filming Cop 4, I was talking to Marty too, so I keep in touch with him. He wants to do a nice small story, character driven story, and all he gets offered are these big movies. He doesn't want to do a big. He wants to do something small right now, and so he's trying to do that. So I love Marty. He's fantastic. The film I did in Chicago, the director, I got her to meet Marty in New York, and she sent him rough cuts of the film and stuff, and he gives his opinion on it. And anyway, he's terrific. And when I go back to New York, we go out and have dinner and stuff. And anyway, yeah, I mean, he wants to do something, a nice. I mean, Once Upon a River, he loved that I did, and he watched it and he loved it. And and that's why I loved doing it. And it was a different character for me. I had a full beard and I was this crippled old guy on the river, living in this little shack, and this runaway girl looks for shelter and happens to run into me, and I take her in, and kind of we become family, and then she leaves to go find her mom, who left her when she was a baby, finds her mom. Her mom's a real asshole, so she comes back and lives with me. I mean, it's a great little story, it's very cool. And Kennedy, the girl that played the girl in it, she was wonderful. And it was her first film. She was only 20 when she did it, and she was terrific in it. And Harula Rose directed it, and she's fantastic. So anyway, I love doing those little things, and I think that's the kind of thing Marty wants to do.
Understandable.
I mean, I told Marty I'll work for free for him. I don't care. I'll work with him any day.
Do you have anything you want to plug, or where people can find you if they want to get in contact with you, other than your agent?
No. I mean, no. You can find me on IMDb Pro. I just I don't live in Hollywood, man. I live in Colorado. So it's like, I've been here for quite a few years. So it was nice to get to a point where I could go out, leave, I mean, they were sending scripts to my house in LA, and my son was 7. And unfortunately, some kid down the street got killed by gang members and stuff. And I just went, man, I do not want my kid to grow up here. And I was living in a really nice area of LA at the time. And some poor kid was sitting there waiting for a bus. And anyway, I said, that's it. And I had it. I said, they can FedEx the script to my house anywhere. So I looked around. I was going to move back east to Connecticut, where I grew up, and I was going to work on in New York. And all my contacts are back in LA. So I chose Colorado. I had founded a little town here, and I love it. It's an hour to the airport and an hour to LA. And I had a meeting one time when they did a pilot for a series of Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
I read the script, and my character wasn't in the script. And then I get a call that the director wanted to meet me. So I get on a plane and I fly to LA. I meet with him. And this is just the Hollywood mentality, I guess. But so I'm sitting there, I have the meeting with him, and he said, if the show goes, would you be willing to be in it? And I said, well, I don't understand why I'm not in the pilot, but but yeah, if it's good. And Eddie was going to be involved and stuff. And he said, but John, the only thing is, you live in Colorado, and he kind of him and hawed. And I looked at him and I said, I'm going to tell you something. I got up at 7 o'clock this morning. I got a 10 o'clock flight. I was here at 11 o'clock, and I made a 1:30 meeting. I couldn't do that if I lived in Santa Barbara. And he looked at me and he goes, well, you're right. And it's the truth. It's a 2-hour flight from Denver, and you gain an hour going out. So it basically is an hour flight. You can't drive anywhere in LA in an hour.
I mean, look, I would say, for a while, because I'm a director too, it was kind of my dream to do Cop 4. And if I did, I would go to the ends of the earth to get you and Judge back. So, that mentality is bullshit as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think so. If they want you bad enough, they'll get you.
Mm-hmm. I just have one last question before you go. What are your memories of Don Simpson, who produced the first 2 movies?
Oh, I love Don, and I got along great with Don. He and Jerry were the greatest partners, because Jerry is a very quiet businessman, I mean, and Don is just the opposite. He's ferocious, and he was, wow, and I'll never forget We were doing Beverly Hills Cop 2. It was the first day of shooting. I get to the set, and a little assistant came up to me and said, "Come on, I'll show you your dressing room." So I said, "Okay." So I walked by a trailer, says Bruckheimer and Simpson. Eddie, of course, has got his bus over there. Another trailer, Judge Reinhold. Another trailer, Tony Scott. And she takes me to the extras trailer, the little, where those little 4x4.
Yeah.
And it's got my name on it. And I go, "What is this?" And she goes, "This is your dressing room." I said, No, it's not. So she opens the door and there's flowers sitting on the table and all that stuff. And I said, "I'm not getting in there. I am not getting in there because I know the deal. Once you get in, you're done." So I said, "I'm not getting in there." So now the walkie-talkies go off and everybody's going, "Where's John Ashton?" Blah, blah, blah. And Jay, he won't get into his dressing room. And I'm the bad guy. It's like, so Peter Bogart, the assistant director, comes run over and goes, John, what's the matter?" And I go, "They want me to dress in there." He goes, "You're kidding." And I said, "No." Now Tony's wondering where I am and everybody. So finally, the production manager comes over and I told him, "I'm not dressing in there. I'll dress in the street before I get in there." And he said, "Well, it says in your contract you first class accommodations, and we consider that first class." And I go, "Are you fucking kidding me?" So anyway, and we're shooting in a neighborhood where Eddie had the uncle's house and stuff.
Yeah.
His uncle. Yeah, we were shooting in that neighborhood. Come down the street, you hear this Ferrari screaming down the street. And Paramount was only a couple miles away, and Don was in his office, and he heard what was going on, and he comes flying down in his Ferrari, screeches on the brakes, jumps out of his car, and he goes, why aren't you guys shooting?" And they said, "John Ashton won't get in his dressing room." He goes, "What?" So he comes running over to me. He goes, "John, what's the fucking problem?" And I go, "They want me to dress in there." And he goes, "Are you kidding me? Get him his fucking trailer and get him here now." So they go, "Well, it's going to take about an hour to get the trailer here." "We'll get it here right now." Judge finally says, "Well, look, he can dress in my room until his trailer gets here." But Don was like, no bullshit guy, man. He was great. I love him.
Oh man.
Is a great. I want to thank you for being on our little program, because obviously me and Andre think the world of you and your roles. We grew up watching you on television and in movies, and it's just like amazing having you here and telling these stories and just having conversation with you, because you okay, I'm trying to get the right words here. All your roles, you're always memorable, or one of the most memorable people in the film. You always have great chemistry with whoever you're working with, whether you're their adversary, their friend, or maybe even their enemy. And especially in the 80s, I mean, between you have Little Bigley, My First Name is Steven, and Some Kind of Wonderful, you could always have that dad quality, but also that fun uncle quality, where there's this, but there's also a sensitivity to you. But if somebody, like in one of your films, if somebody tries to put their arm around you, you're gonna be like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" But you always care about that other person, and that's such a rare screen quality. And that's why over the years you've always stayed one of the most memorable actors and character actors to me, because again, seeing you on screen sometimes, you remind me of my own father. How he was.
I've heard that a lot. From people. Some Kind of Wonderful, especially. They go, "You reminded me exactly of my father."
And especially as you are a father yourself. And it just, warms my heart just sitting here talking to you. And it is just an honor for you to be on our show and give us this time to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. I just try to be as real as I can be to the character, and be as honest I can be to the character that I'm playing. and I try to develop a relationship with everybody I'm working with. So thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, John, we've done a lot of interviews on this show, but out of all of them, this one really made me feel like a kid again. And it's just, again, such an honor to have you on. And I'm glad they got you in Cop 4. I'm really excited for it. And I'm really hoping, that this is the one that's really going to, redeem the franchise and get it back where it needed to be.
Yeah, I hope so. I heard they're already thinking about 5, so it'd be great. So
yeah.
Go see it. It's gonna be it's gonna be a good comeback. I think it's gonna be fun. A lot of action, a lot of stuff in it. Yeah, I think it's gonna be huge. So I'm really proud of it, and I'm glad I did it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Good luck with your directing career.
Oh, thank you. Hopefully, we'll get to work together on something down the line.
Hey, man, if it's right, we'll do it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm always open.
Take your character. Right.
All right, guys. That it? You got anything else? Anything else?
No, I mean, we had pages of questions, but I think this is good enough.
Yes. All right. All right, guys.
John, thank you so much again.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Good luck, guys.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.